Hey guys, welcome to lesson 10.1, the Pythagorean Theorem. Our objective for today is that I can solve problems using the Pythagorean Theorem and that I can identify right triangles. Two new vocabulary words for the day. We have leg, which are the sides of a triangle forming the right angle, and they are attached to the right angle. The hypotenuse is the side of the triangle that is opposite the right angle, and it is also the longest side. It will always be the longest side. Our essential understanding: the lengths of the sides of a right triangle have a special relationship, and if you know the lengths of any two of the sides, you can find the length of the third side. So what is this Pythagorean theorem, you say? It is simply this: a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The sum of the squares of the lengths of the legs is equal to the square of the length of the hypotenuse. So now let's just apply it. So letter A, we've got two sides. They are 3 and 4, and we're going to label them A and B. And since you're probably thinking the question, Mr. Boland, does it matter which one is A and which one is B? No, it doesn't. As long as your hypotenuse is C, it doesn't matter which ones are A and B. So we have 3 squared plus 4 squared is equal to c squared. 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, equals c squared. So we've got 25 equals c squared, and then you take the square root of that, and you get c is equal to 5. Now, Mr. Boland, when we took square roots in the past, there was always a plus or a minus involved. Well, here, would it make sense to have a negative value for the square root? We're talking about the length of a triangle side, so only the positive value is going to be what applies here. Okay. Letter B, we also know sides A and B, so we're just going to label those A and B. So 2 squared plus 7 squared is equal to 49 squared, or c squared. 2 squared is 4. 7 squared is 49 is equal to c squared. Add them together, we've got 53 is equal to c squared. Square root of both sides. And c is going to be approximately equal to 7.3. Okay, so you're just going to have to round these when we have those irrational numbers. Okay, I want you guys to try letter C and D, find those hypotenuses, and then we're going to go over it. So letter C, we have side lengths of 4 and 8. So those are our A and B. 4 squared plus 8 squared is equal to c squared. 4 squared is 16. 8 squared is 64. When you add those together, we get 80 is equal to c squared. Square root of both sides. C is approximately equal to 8.94. Okay. Next up, letter D, we have A is 12, B is 18. 12 squared plus 18 squared is equal to c squared. So we have 144 plus 324 is equal to c squared. When you combine those like terms, you get 468 is equal to c squared. And then you take the square root of both sides, and you get that c is approximately 21.63. Okay, moving on to our second page of notes. So in this section, we are going to be finding the length of one of the legs. So you can see each of the triangles where we know the hypotenuse, we need to find one of the legs. So again, we're going to label our known values. We've got A and C, so we've got 5 squared plus x squared is equal to 13 squared. 5 squared is 25 plus x squared is equal to 169. So now we're going to have to subtract 25 from both sides to get our squared term by itself. So we have x squared is equal to 144, and the square root of that is going to be 12. Okay, letter B, we have a side length of 10 and we have a side length of 23. The longest of those sides is our hypotenuse. It's also across from the right angle. So we have 10 squared plus x squared equals 23 squared. 10 squared is 100, and 23 squared is 529. Subtract 100 from both sides. X squared is equal to 429. Then we take the square root of both sides, and x equals approximately 20.7. Make sure you got the squiggle equal sign there, because these are approximations. We're rounding. Okay. Want you guys to try letter C and D on your own, and then Mr. Wolf and I are going to go over them. So letter C, we've got 9 squared plus x squared is equal to 15 squared. 9 squared is 81, and 15 squared is 225. So we're going to subtract 81 from both sides of the equation, and we get x squared is equal to 144. Take the square root of both sides, and you get x is equal to 12. Letter D, we have A and C that we know. So we have 6 squared plus x squared equals 19 squared. 6 squared is 36. 19 squared is 361. Subtract 36 from both sides of the equation, and x squared is going to be equal to 325. Take the square root of both sides. X is approximately equal to 18.03. Okay. Now, the last thing that we're going to go through is the converse to the Pythagorean theorem, and what that says is if a triangle has sides of a, b, and c, and a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, then the triangle is a right triangle with a hypotenuse of length c. So remember, our definition of hypotenuse was the longest side. So we identify which one is the longest side. It is 7.5. Then we label the other two as a and b. So now we just set them up. 2.1 squared plus 7.2 squared equals 7.5 squared. 2.1 squared is 4.41 plus 51.84 is equal to 56.25. So when we add and combine like terms, 51.84 plus 4.41, we get 56.25 is equal to 56.25. So that is a right triangle, right? Both sides of the equal sign are true. That is a true equation. Okay. Letter B, we have side lengths 5, 8, and 10. So 10 is going to be our hypotenuse because it is the longest side. So 5 squared plus 8 squared equals 10 squared. 5 squared is 25, 8 squared is 64, 10 squared is 100. 25 plus 64 is 89, equals 100. Last time I checked, that is not the case, so this is not a right triangle. Okay. And letters C and D, I want you guys to try those on your own, and then we will go over them. So letter C, we have 52 is our longest side, so that's going to be our hypotenuse, or C. So 20 squared plus 47 squared is equal to 52 squared. 20 squared is 400 plus 2209 is equal to 2704. All right, 400 plus 2209 is 2609 is equal to 2704. That is not the case, so it is not a right triangle. Okay, the last one, we've got 9, 40, and 41. So 41 is our hypotenuse. We have 9 squared plus 40 squared equals 41 squared. 9 squared is 81. 40 squared is 1600. And 41 squared is 1681. 1681 is equal to 1681. So that is a right triangle. Okay. And moving on to the last page, our level of understanding. Make sure you circle whether or not you're lost or you can teach this lesson or somewhere in between. Write down any questions or confusions you may have from this lesson, and make sure you write a summary in your own words of what you learned and how to apply the Pythagorean theorem to finding triangles. All right, that's all for tonight. Have a good night.